Hi everyone, Natasha here, and around my home today I am in my office. It is early morning and I am enjoying some good time up here to plan, journal, and work on things as I prepare for a new day. Of course, I've had some coffee and enjoyed that as well. And I've decided I needed to set up something to help me specifically focus in on my visions and my goals for the future. So I've set up a new notebook and we'll be diving into that shortly. So stay tuned and welcome to my office. Welcome back to my home. I'm so glad you're joining me today. So as I mentioned, I was working on my plans and my goals, and you may remember that I recently set up my long-term storage notebook. So I'll link the video below where I talk about that. And this has been working out really well. What I'm keeping in here are my completed budget pages for the year, as well as my upcoming months from my Jane's Agenda monthly inserts. And I have some extra Jane's Agenda dividers in the back so I can just add things as we go along. But I was also trying to keep in there some of my vision board and goal pages. Some of these came from Jane's Agenda in one of the sub boxes. Some of them were ones I've just picked up or created. And I felt like I really needed to pull all of those together. I was kind of forgetting to use them and forgetting to look at them. I don't know about you, but the first half of this year just has seemed a little bit off, and I felt like I was kind of doing some deeper work and looking at things in my life and trying to kind of really hone in on what do I want to keep, what do I need to let go of. And so I never set up a vision board, and I've been putting it on my to-do list for months and months now. And I thought, I think it's time to just sort of refresh my planner system for my vision and goals. And so I made myself a little notebook. So these are just some discs that I had on hand. This is a Jane's Agenda cover that I had on hand, and I used some of the transparent sticky notes that came in a recent Jane's Agenda sub box. I think these might be on the regular website now, and then a uni pin, because that is the kind of oil-based ink is what you need for these translucent sticky notes. So I just made myself some quick little handwritten labels. So this is now my vision and goals notebook, and we're going to dive in. So what I've done is use these translucent dividers with the top tabs, and if I can find the link for these, I'll put it down below. And then I used, like I mentioned, these translucent sticky notes and the uni pin to make my little labels, and I just trimmed around the corners once I had stuck them down. So the first page I have here are some of my routines, and I really liked using this translucent divider because it becomes a wet erase or dry erase board. So here's my Expo dry erase marker, and I can just mark on here when I've done things. And then with a paper towel or a tissue, it's just real easy to erase those off, and I can use it again the next day. So this is a page of some of my basic routines that I wrote down at some point. I don't look at this all the time, but it is nice for me just to refer back to this, especially in the morning when I'm trying to focus in on certain things. And sometimes when we're home, I'll pull this out to look at the afternoon routine. Obviously in the summer we don't have homework, but just as a reminder of some of the things I don't want to forget to touch base on. So I have that at the beginning of my planner. And then I also went through and made myself an ideal weekly schedule just to see that visually. Again, it's not something I need to refer to often, but sometimes working through a process like this does help me sort of get things out of my mind that I just keep thinking about and see them on paper in physical form, just to help me understand, for instance, like this, how many hours a day do I have to actually work on things or to work on my own personal things versus my other dedicated time with being a parent and running some small businesses and of course needing sleep and food and all of the basics. So I felt like this was a nice activity just to do and then have in here. And then this values and inspiration section, these are some things I've just been collecting. So some of this came from the LH Agenda, just some inspiration and ideas I've gotten from there. So I jotted them down. I haven't completely worked through it, but I felt like that was a good place to start. Same thing with this, just some ideas on ways I can use my existing planner pages and some things to focus on. some information about journaling. So this will just be a place where I can collect some of these things. And when I need inspiration or I'm looking for some of those more detailed tasks that I want to work on, then I'll have them here in that section. Then this is the vision board section. So like I mentioned, I have not completed my vision board yet, and I think that's okay. I have a birthday in June, so in a way I feel like I'm just starting my next, year of life, and it's okay to me to just start a vision board now. So I'd like to work on that in the next couple of days, and I like this whole vision board collection that came from the Jane's Agenda Deluxe subscription box. I think this was a really smart way to design this, where you have your personal, your professional, your long-term, and then you can add a fourth one if you want. And there's 2 sides to that. So you can do 2 parts of the year. You could do 2 quarters. On the Jane's Agenda website, there's a blog post about this, and I think she mentions you can do your vision here, and then on the back side you can do what actually happens after the length of time you decide. And then here's a little more specific one that's divided out into these 9 sections of your life. And same thing, you can do your ideas and your goals on one side, and then what actually happened on the other side, or you could do it for the 2 quarters or the 2 halves of the year. And then in the last couple of years, I've enjoyed doing this vision board challenge with Colette Baron Reed. So I signed up for it again in January this year, thought I was going to do it. I had all these things printed out, and then I just never got around to doing it. And so I thought, well, I'm going to put these in here just as some inspiration for me, some reminders about different things to think about when you're setting up a vision board. So I have that there as a resource as well. Then we go into this manifestation journal section. So once again, these are some inserts from Jane's Agenda. I think these smaller ones came in a sub box last fall, and these are just a line a day for the 12 months of the year. Now I have these in here as a way to maybe write down things I'm grateful for, or just highlights of what happened that day. But I was looking at this morning, and I thought, if I don't end up feeling like that's what I want to use it for, this would also be great just as a perpetual calendar to keep track of birthdays. I like the size of this page, so it gives you a little bit more room to write, because I don't know if you're like me, but it seems like inevitably there's a few times a year where a couple of dates will have multiple people's birthdays on them. And so some of the narrower trackers that I have that are only this wide, it's hard to fit all the names on there. So I have that in there as a potential of something I want to use. And then she also, in the Jane's Agenda sub box, gave us this manifestation journal a few months back, and I've been wanting to use it, but I just kept forgetting that I had it. So I thought this will be great to put this in here as well, and just keep all of these types of vision and goal and journaling pages all together in one place. And again, I could do this as often as I want, just when I feel like it. There's really no guidelines I'm giving myself about it. I just wanted to be able to have it all collected in one spot so that I knew where to go for these things. And I was finding some of these were housed in my everyday carry planner, but then that was bulking up my planner, and in the end I really wasn't sitting down to do these on a random day, basis as I'm just going about my work day or going about life and running errands. I'm not going to sit down to do some of this deeper thinking work. So it made sense to me to pull these out and just have these collected and stay here in my office. Then the next tab is this Level 10 Life. Once again, this was from Jane's Agenda, from one of the sub boxes, and I thought this was a nice way to work through evaluating some of your areas of your life, and it can help with setting some of your visions and goals. So I've kind of set this up initially, but I haven't gone through to evaluate things and really look at it more deeply. And then we have this goal section that also came from the Jane's Agenda. So this was one way to do it, was just to track like the numbers of things. I did go through and start working on setting up some things for the third quarter. I decided I needed to highlight just to help me differentiate between the goals. And so far I've just put in some of my social media goals, but I'm looking forward to going through here and adding some of my other goals as well. And of course, we've got the last quarter there. And then I like that at the back, there is an annual tracker, so you can check things off and look at how your results were for the entire year. Then on the quarterly planning pages, I've started setting this up. It does help me to see visually where the weekends are, because I tend to use the Sunday start calendars more often, so any of these inserts that came as a Monday start, I needed to highlight when Saturday and Sunday were falling just to make sure I didn't mix myself up. And I've gone through and put in a lot of my social media and Jordan Essentials and YouTube plans so that I can keep track of those. Plus, there's just some dates for our local events and planning that I want to keep track of as well, like the first day of school, stuff like that. So this will be good too to have this as I go through and work on setting up plans. I feel like we're already getting to that second half of the year where things start to get a little bit busier. We have a little reprieve here in July, but then already in August we're starting school. And then I know for the last quarter of the year it gets busy with events and holidays and family stuff and all that. So I feel good already knowing this is here for me. And then the last section is this monthly goals section. So this was another insert that came from Jane's agenda. And I haven't set this out to use yet, but I did like how it was laid out. You know, you give, it's a little bit less structured. So you could put one goal in each of these, you could put several goals, you could set it up however you wanted, and then it really just gives you this tracker where you can track your projects, events, or ideas that you're wanting to get done within this quarter. So this may or may not be something that I end up using, but I just liked having it as another option for setting up my goals. I don't know about you, but sometimes goal setting is really difficult for me because in a way I feel like all of the things are a goal and I want to make everything in my life better, but then I really don't have any control over some of these things other than I just keep doing what I'm doing, but I don't, you know, you can't make people subscribe to your channel or you can't make people buy your products, that kind of thing. So this has been good because I think it'll help me focus in more on the inspiration and the vision, and that in itself helps me set up my goals a little bit better. Plus, having somewhere to track it has been good, and just giving myself a place that I know to go for all of these types of things. And the other thing this is good for is, in a way, what works for me is just to think about routines that I can set up within a day or within a week that I just keep doing those routines and that's working toward my goals. But I can't really say that there's like a project that I've checked off the list necessarily. So like posting my videos 3 times a week, if I get those done and that's just part of my weekly routine, then I know I'm working toward the goal of growing my channel. But I can't necessarily say that there's like one big final project that's just going to get me there. So I like to have things like this just to help me hone in and focus in on what works for my brain and what can be inspirational for me. And I'd love to hear if you have something like this set up where you have all of your goal planning and ideas and inspiration all gathered in one place. I know there's quite a number of great planners out there that include more detailed things like this. And you can build your own. You can get one of those pre-made planners. I tend to like building my own because inevitably the pre-made planners are just too structured and I don't fall into the categories that they have. So I'm excited to have this now, and it's inspiring me to pull it out and start working in it when I see it in my office. So let me know in the comments below how you're doing with the second half of the year, if you've had fun making a vision board already this year, or if you're like me and have struggled getting started on your vision and your goals for the year. I think every year is different, and for whatever reason this year it just feels like I had to kind of keep my head down and just keep working on the everyday things that had to get done the first half of the year. But now things feel a little lighter and brighter, and like I can really sit down and dream and make those big plans, which is always a nice feeling. So thanks for joining me today. I'll be back on Tuesday for my Tiny Tidy Tuesday video, and on Friday for a beautifully organized in 52 weeks video. Don't forget to subscribe and hit that like button down below, and I will see you again soon. Have a good one. Bye.